Welcome back to Bread and Butter, where we are serving up the basics for Hearthstone Improvement. This is episode 152 on January 4th, 2026, and I'm joined as always by Pilot. Pilot, how are you today?
Doing well. How are you?
Good. I realize I never say the date, and I probably won't often because I'll usually forget, but I figured it's 2026. We should at least mention it. And today we have one of our favorite returning guests on, WorldEight. WorldEight, how are you today?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on again.
It's always a pleasure to have you. What have you been cooking in Hearthstone lately?
Oh, to my own kind of chagrin, I got really stubborn about playing Egg Warlock. I don't know, just something about the deck really appeals to me, and I put an Animancer package in a little while ago because that kind of seemed like a natural fit, and I've just been kind of iterating on it for all of December. And I think I finally I've gotten to I kind of had a few breakthroughs along the way, which is great because it's a pretty bad tempo deck, right? If you're playing just to break the egg and stuff, you sometimes just explode. But the Animancer plan is actually really good. So the egg part farms Warrior and Death Knight. There's almost nothing those decks can do about it. You just those are slam dunk wins. They're I think I'm 18-2 against Warrior or something stupid, which is great for ladder. But then also on the flip side, you're 2-18 against Demon Hunter. But the Animancer package is really strong, so just playing around with a lot of cards. And what I ended up doing is, we have the Gigasaur in that deck, the 14/28, and it gets lifesteal with the Animancer, pretty good. I put in Crazed Alchemist in the deck. Not only does it break your eggs, but you can slam people for 28 damage out of nowhere. So it's one Hellfire and one Gigasaur that sticks afterwards, and you just randomly kill it on people on 6, and they really don't know what just happened. So it's a lot of fun. But the problem is that when I was cooking, I cooked too hard, and I got myself right out of 11x, and so I ended up in I don't know, 1500, something like that. So right out of the bonus range, and now I'm doing a slow but steady climb through D5 through D1, which is normally even a challenge in top 1K if you've got the two stars, because you're facing tough opponents. It's really tough when you have 1 star and you're facing gold card backs. So it might be a bit of a slog. We'll see. I might not even hit legend. It's that tough this month. I might actually not hit legend and get the 2-star bonus, or the 11x bonus next month. It's going to be a weird month. We'll see.
Yeah, I believe you'll hit legend. It's only the 4th. You got time. And the Egg Warlock particularly, I hated the Egg Warlock, and I have a bias towards it only because it was popular about a month and a half ago, like a version of it, and that's when I was trying to get my Bubble Paladin, the buff Bubble Paladin kind of thing working, and it did not do well when you got a bunch of 2020s in your way. So I kind of have an irrational hate of that deck. Maybe I'd like a little bit more now, but at that time, I didn't want to see it. Pilot, what have you been up to in Hearthstone lately?
Not a whole lot the past few days. I hit legend before we recorded last week, and then after playing a bunch of Quest Hunter, I wanted a palette cleanse for myself and jumped back on to the Arcane Mage and had a really good day where I went 7-1, 8-1, something like that one day. And I saw seeing all the matchups I wanted. I'm like, okay, I know this deck really well. I'm seeing the field that I want. Maybe this will get me there, because I got up to 1500, and then the next day it swung right back the other way, and I'm like, maybe I can make him a late 11x push, and then I ended up back down at 2500, because once you lose so much, then you're like, I know that this deck can win. I'm going to win a game with it before I put it away. And jeez. And then sorry, the cat just went tumbling off the desk. And then about 6 games later, I'm like, oh, okay, I finally won. So not too much outside of that. Played a couple battlegrounds here and there, but just kind of chilling, focusing on other things here the last few days of break.
And to no surprise if you've listened the last couple weeks, is I've been playing Krona Druid. In fact, we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. But that deck has been a lot of fun. It does pretty well against almost everything, but it's not like good against almost everything. It's just a fun deck to play. Sometimes you just have a deck that, whether it's good or bad or whatever, it just kind of hits you, it grabs you, and this deck has been kind of that deck for me, and I've been having an absolute blast playing with it. So I'm like, I should play something else. I'm like, but I could play Krona Druid, and I've been doing it. And to be fair, we'll address it. It's not the Krona Druid. I guess there's multiple versions of Krona Druid out there. It's a version of Copy. It's Krona Copy Druid. And it's because it's so many different versions of the Druid right now. There's so many swapped cards. So we'll go over the specific version I've been playing, but we'll try to make sure that you understand it's not. It's an amalgamation of like a bunch of different decks. So we'll talk about that. But WorldEight, what have you been doing outside the game?
Oh, it was just the holiday season here, so pretty busy with all of that. You know, Christmas, obviously a very busy time. We live close to my family, or my wife's family, and then we went down to Florida to see my family, but also we went to Disney World for we were in the parks for 3 days. We were down in Florida for 5. So we had a really good time. It was a crazy time of the year down there. I think they report it as maybe the busiest time at Disney World. So we signed up for things like lightning lanes, which you get to shorter lines. But it was just like elbow to elbow there. Absolutely incredible decoration job though. Like, if you love Christmas decorations, ornaments, they go all out. Like, it just they'll do gingerbread displays and be like, well, 10,000 man hours went into this gingerbread display. You're like, okay, that's good for you. So we came back and just about to, get back into school this week, normal work schedule, all those usual things. But I'm happy to be back.
Yeah, I've been down to Disney World at Christmas, and it's really kind of cool. Pilot, what have you been up to?
Yeah, I can imagine that. It's crazy. I remember we would always take in high school, our every 4-year band trip was to Disney, and we marched New Year's one year, and that was absolutely insane. It was awesome, but that was packed. Um, I am on the flip side of ending winter break, and you can probably hear that I have a lot more dread and despair in my voice about that happening compared to WorldEight and everyone else. But it's been a good couple weeks off. I didn't work on stuff as much as I should have, and that's okay because I needed the 2 weeks off. And then felt that today as I'm like, oh, I have to start working on this music tomorrow. I need to look at this just a little bit before class, and we'll be okay. Outside of that, spent New Year's with my family up at my brother's, who's got a big enough house to where we can throw air mattresses in all the extra rooms and crash there. So had a good time there playing board games and hanging out with them. And then this month started Lorcana set champs. So I didn't make one on Saturday. I was going to, and then I forgot that I had something going on. So I got to one today, which is the first time that I've actually played games against people this set. So started about as well as I expected. Found a really cheap kind of aggro burn style deck that really fits me. Saw 2 matchups that I didn't want to see. The first 2 rounds got close, but without having played as much, couldn't quite find the edges and went 0-2, got the bye, so I got a win, got a second win. I'm like, okay, I'm kind of in it. I can sneak my way into top 8 cut with tiebreakers, and I lost a mirror match to like a 7-year-old kid who hit the absolute nuts against me. He played well. He played really smart. He played much better than I would have at 7 years old. But just I'm like, okay, I'm doing okay. I'm stabilizing. And then the last game, I didn't draw any 1-drops. I, mulliganed aggressively like I was supposed to. Saw everything I didn't want to see, and it was basically like the equivalent in Hearthstone. I was telling Tito beforehand of like when you face the aggro pain DH and they just hit the absolute nuts that kill you out of nowhere on turn 4 because you just take so much damage with the Slither Spear, Coin Slither, into Spear of the Team, into Acupunctures. That's what happened to me. So it is what it is. It was fun to be able to play in person again, and most of my schedule lines up well for the local store. So hopefully we'll do a little bit better next weekend.
Fair enough. And you said that you played better at the 7-year-old played better than you would have at 7 years old, but he played better than you probably would have played now.
Slightly. So it was the worst part is he left. I don't know if he was planning on playing, but he left home without his deck. He ended up having to borrow an extra deck that someone else had, which was built for their kids to play. So it was very much like geared towards, like, their kids are the same age. So it's very much just hyper aggro, play card, go towards your win condition. Don't think, don't trade. He actually made some trades more than what I expected him to. So he definitely played well, but it was, had never played the deck before, never seen the deck, hadn't even played one of the mana colors that was in the deck before, and went 3-2 and just missed on top 8. It was insane.
Fair. So I also had a lot of time off. I did work a couple days last week. I was going to work Wednesday, but then my kid was like, "Hey, can you come home Tuesday night?" And I said, "Sure." So it was very chill break. I played a lot of Hearthstone. I played a lot of Civilization. I finally got my first win on Deity, which was good. Really enjoying that. And the problem is between like 6, I played a lot of Civ 6, and you had to really understand what you were doing there. I still don't understand all the mechanics of towns and cities in 7, and I still was able to win on Deity. So it's like, is that a problem? Maybe. Like, I have some ideas and I've learned a lot, but I still don't like get it. It's kind of like with the owl math. Like, we're going to talk about that. I said the deck in a second. I don't understand the owl math really. Like, I just kind of say, I think I have enough here. Like, okay, if I copy it a couple times and I cast the spell, it's going to kill him, right? So sometimes you just kind of know enough to get by, and that's what I've been doing in Civ. Outside of that, I had to de-ice my driveway because not being there during the week, it rains, it snows, it freezes. I live in New Hampshire, and then if I'm there every day, it's taken care of because I stay on top of it. And if you go a couple days and you don't stay on top of it, it's an absolute nightmare. And right now, if normally say, well, why don't you just salt your driveway? Great idea, except that at this time of year, all the salt is sold out probably for the rest of the year. So you just got to kind of do with what you do. And I spent a lot of time on that, walk the dogs, just nice and chill. But we don't need to talk too much more about that. I think it's time to talk a little Hearthstone. So for our first topic today, we're going to talk about the Copy Krona Druid that I've been playing. Now, the reason why we're doing this is because I realized just about an hour ago that we didn't have a main topic, or a primary topic, not the main topic. We have a main topic. And the only deck I've been playing is the Copy Krona Druid, so I figured it was the best thing to talk about. So this is not the most popular version of the deck. In fact, I would say what is probably one of the least popular versions of the deck, or I don't know how many people are playing it.
It's like 3rd or 4th. At least it's close. On HS Guru, it's very close to the other ones with games, and it's like 3rd or 4th win rate wise.
Okay. Now, this is kind of what I really have enjoyed about the what do you call it cards? The not legacy cards, the fabled cards, because it kind of it's like a package in itself, but it's not like necessarily defining the deck. And I think the clearest version of that is in Druid right now, because there are so many different directions this can go. And there are people that are playing seismopods, or people that are playing what I'm playing. There are people that are playing just a straight up owl. There are people that are playing all kinds of things. So I like the flexibility that those cards have brought. So just a few notes on this deck before we get into it. It's like I said, it's not if you're just thinking it might be the deck you're thinking about, double check the list. We'll post the list. It is not. It can be a little inconsistent. It's super fun. I've had so much fun playing it. It's like when I log in, I'm not like, oh, what am I going to play right now? I'm like, oh, I get to play some Krona Druid, and it's weird because it's not usually the typical deck I like. I don't think it's like a combo deck without a whole lot of control. It's got a little bit of kind of like stave things off, but like you're kind of just trying to survive until you can get to your things, and it's I think we described it earlier before we started the show as a choose your own adventure. There are multiple win conditions, which is weird for a combo deck, I think. But at the same point, it's like you don't necessarily have to go towards a particular win condition. You can kind of let the card draw you have and the situation dictate what would be the best solution for you. And if something goes awry, you can still go a different direction. So that's something I really like. For me, so for similar decks, you're seeing people that run. These are cards I'm not running, but you can see Bob in some of these lists. I can't wait for Bob to rotate. Is he rotating next turn? I don't know. He's rotating good. Get him out of here. Sleep Under the Stars, Hydration Station, Dread Deserter, Eridar Brute. There's a lot of things you can do to make the deck feel the way you want it to. So if you have some of those cards that you like, you could probably play it and just make it work. For me, the key cards are obviously Owlonius. We want to copy Owlonius and we want to do a lot of damage to our opponent's face. I still don't know how the math works. Hopefully WorldEight can explain it later. But I just know that I count the number. I say I'm going to make 3, maybe 4 Owloniuses. That should be enough with the burn spells in my hand, right? Okay. And usually you can get through a lot of armor. So it is always fun when you're playing against a mage and they're sleet skating everything. And you're like, that's fine. You're just giving me time to get enough things so I can really go over the top and make you feel really bad because you felt like you were super safe with all your armor and you're not. Briarspawn Drakes, because you copy them and you double and double and double where you can. So you get sometimes you can get like a 72 something attack Briarspawn Drake, and that'll go through quite a bit. The Fabled card, Lady Azshara, absolutely, and Krona, which we're calling it the Copy Krona Druid. So that is key, but it's not key in a lot of the copy decks. So you don't have to run Krona, you don't have to craft Krona. It just enables a lot more potentially unique situations where you get 1 mana cards that allow you to go off a little earlier or to combo some things and just have fun. So your win conditions, you have, I would say, 3 main win conditions. Doesn't mean you can't win other ways, but obviously copying the owl, and then you run Living Roots, you run Swipe, and you run Ebb and Flow, which is Ebb and Flow. Was that one of the cards we revealed, Pilot?
I think so.
Yeah, let's go. And if you don't have those, you still have the Well of Eternity, which can generate spells for you too. So we'll talk about that. And the other win condition is the large Briarspawn Drakes that we've seen before. You know, you can work those with Seismopods, you can work those with other things, but getting the location Zin-Azshari to double the size of them, great. And that is always fun. So in the early game, you really want to get your taunts out fast. You have Tortollan Travelers, which discount your taunt cards. It's always nice when you can get your Krona on for 4 mana. It gets your Blob of Tars out of the deck. Blob of Tars are great. A lot of times, what you'll do is you'll play Elise on 4. You'll get the copy because you're almost always grabbing copy unless the situation dictates. But you're always grabbing copy and usually spell damage or something. But playing Elise on 4 and Blob of Tar on 5 with the copy of that can really kind of slow your opponent depending on what they're doing. So that is a great way to get through the middle game. And like we said a little bit, you don't want to force your win condition. You may say, oh, I want an owl. I can't wait to owl. Owl's super fun. If you want to just play owl, play an owl deck. But this is kind of like what's going on right now. If you're playing against, say, the Pain Demon Hunter, use your spells early in the game to control the board. You have other win conditions. You can figure it out. So don't feel like you have to hold all your combo pieces in order to live. It's better to play your cards and figure out how to win later versus having your cards and having no health. So I think that's kind of something that you can go wrong with this deck. And then sometimes you just get random ways to win based on what you get from Krona. Like we said, sometimes you can get a nice trap. What's the guy that copies a location?
Scrapbooking Student.
Yes.
Scrapbook Student. Yeah. Sometimes you get a 1 mana Scrapbook Student, and you can get a nice early copy there. Sometimes you don't even need to wait for the end. Sometimes you just get your Zilliax down on 7 and you make a copy of that, and it's a double copy. You just have enough stats where you're just going to overwhelm your opponent. The matchup knowledge is really important. as you're learning. The meta is fairly, I would say, not solved, but it's fairly consistent right now. You know what you're going to see. If you see a warrior, it's either going to be dragon or quest. If you see hunter, it's going to be quest. Excuse me. If you see hunter, it's going to be discover, unless you're getting against pilot, then it'll be quest. The quest warrior does run a lot of things that cause you problems, but it's not. You still win. Like I think it's 70% versus quest warrior, but you do have to be aware that they run the demolition sometimes. So you have to be kind of aware of where you when you play your locations and what they cost, and they also run dirty rats. Yeah, pilot.
I would warn that for pretty much any of the control decks. Control Death Knight also runs those as well, and especially because Elise Rogue is starting to pop up and be more popular. Location hate's probably going to go up with it, so be aware if you're going to just tempo out your locations.
Right, and you do have kind of some backup with if you have your Elise. You don't always hit on Elise, but if you play sometimes you want to almost bait that out with your Elise location, because it sometimes can be less important than the other one depending on what you're doing. So just kind of keep an eye on that. And another thing I would say is don't sleep on the Well of Eternity. I think a lot of people think Copy Druid and it's just like, okay, I'm going to just get to the Copy Druid, but you get Well Eternity down in a slow matchup, you can get a lot of good use out of that. And even if you only have a couple if say you even have 8 cards in your hand, hit it if it's on there, because if you have mana that you don't want to waste, you might be able to get something like a New Heights or something like that that can get you just a little extra value. And sometimes that's going to win you the game. So play that. And then just some common mistakes, and then we'll see if our co-hosts have any thoughts here. Elise location plus spell damage. The spell damage only counts for the next spell, so make sure that you use your coins and your innovates first, because it's kind of like prep coin. It's not going to work. You gotta coin first and then press the location and do that. Otherwise, you're going to miss out on spell damage, which can be really important with the Owlonius. Welcome Home has a death rattle. Sometimes you can forget about that. So sometimes you want to welcome home and you're copying, and then your board is too full to make the copy thing of what you want, because that death rattle triggers first. So just be aware of that. Don't hold things too long. If you need it to survive. Not going to do you any good. Sometimes you just play that Ebb and Flow. Sometimes you got to play that without getting the armor from it. Sometimes you can't save it for Owlonius. Use your judgment and try to keep you want to keep their board clear as much as possible until it gets towards the end when you need them to have minions for your Riotborn Drakes. Then you're okay with that. It's always nice when they start playing. It's always nice when the warrior. We had one game where the warrior tried to brawl himself to not give me any Briarspawn Drakes. I mean, anything targets for the Briarspawn Drakes, but for some reason, which was really smart. But except for 2 turns before that, they played the Warlock Quest Reward, which gives them 2 minions each turn. So they pretty much guaranteed me targets, and it was a beautiful thing. But that was a lot of fun. Pilot, you want to say something? Oh, okay. If yeah, like I said, use your living roots and swipes early if you can get there. You can always generate more. If you know you will go, if you know you're going to go away from the Drake, like the Drake's not your win condition, then you don't need the doubling of doubling of Zin-Azshari. So you can possibly go towards the double spells of the Well of Eternity, but also the doubling still can work without the Drake if you have you still have your Zilliax and stuff like that. So just kind of, again, let the game dictate what you got to do. Just kind of know your matchups. And if Elise is not in your hand, it doesn't matter what turn you play Oaken Summons on, it will summon Elise 95% of the time. I had a coaching with Wicked Good, and I told him this at the beginning. I'm like, anytime we play this, it's going to draw Elise. And it drew Elise, like, I think almost every single time. And he's like, this doesn't make sense. And it's just, it's one of those things. It may be just that you remember it the most, but sometimes it's still worth playing, taking that risk, because you need to get that Blob of Tar on the way. You need that armor. You need a little bit of time to stabilize before you can get that 7-mana Zilliax down and do some damage. And the other thing to remember too is Anything after you play Krona can be 1 mana. So if you play Oaken Summons, you don't know what you're going to draw unless you can use HS Replay and it shows you what's on the bottom because you've played Contingency and you know what's on the bottom. So you can play Oaken Summons if you're running that, and you're going to pull Owl, you're going to pull Scrapbooking Student, you're going to pull Lady Azshara. So it's not going to be what you normally expect before you play Krona. So just kind of know what's in your deck and be very careful.
Yeah.
And as far
if you're able to, like if you have Krona in hand and also already have Waveshaping, it might be good to force that in early turns. That way you can set the bottom of your deck, and then you also know what's there. Because Waveshaping is the tracking where you pick one and then the other two go on the bottom. So then you can set, oh, I know that these 2 cards are on the bottom, making Krona good, or knowing, and I didn't really have any good options, so even though they're cheap, this Contingency is going to draw those, and I have no idea what the others are.
And if you don't have anything to play in your hand early on, play Contingency. If it's in your hand and you need something to do, you don't have to hold Contingency to draw something from Krona. Ideally, too, the other thing I didn't mention, if you're about to play Krona and you can play Contingency first, because Contingency lets you draw a card and put 2 cards at the bottom of your deck. If you can do that before you play Krona, it's better because then you can kind of have an idea of what you're reducing, and that may even help you decide if you're going to play Krona that turn or next turn.
Yeah, Waveshaping is the card that does that, not Contingency.
Oh, I'm sorry, Waveshaping. That's right. Waveshaping. Contingency draws the 2 bottom cards.
Yeah, Contingency is the draw 2 from the bottom.
And as far as matchups, you're in most of the games. Like, there's very few matchups where you're not in it. You're slightly favored against most of the DKs and DHs, hunters, mages. Although hunter, the stats say you're slightly favored, like 52%, but it doesn't feel that way to me. I feel like the hunter matchup is tougher than it seems because hunter can find ways to do everything. So just be aware, but it's still pretty good. Mages, you do pretty well against. Protoss priests, you just kick their butts usually, and I really enjoy that. I think that might be why I like this deck so much.
Probably.
Because I've just eaten up Protoss priests, and it's great. Now you're slightly favored against Shaman and Dragon Warrior, and you do not want to see rogues. Although rogues are kind of like the opposite of hunters, because I feel like hunters I have a disadvantage of, even though I have advantage. I've actually done pretty well against rogues, or it's felt like I've done pretty good against rogues, but the stats say that you're like 60-40 against a lot of rogues. And you eat Reform Warlocks and Quest Warriors for breakfast. It's such a fun deck to play against into Quest Warriors, because you know what they want to do, and you can just they take enough time where you can just take your time setting up what you want to, and just get those satisfying finishes at the end. I don't know how we do against Egg Warlock, but I'm assuming it's not good. It's not quite the matchup we're looking for, but maybe, I don't know. So again, I played a lot of this deck. I'm just recommending it as something. Right now, we're waiting for news of the mini set. We're waiting for a rotation, and a lot of people are like, I don't know what to play on board. This is fun. In my opinion, this is a lot of fun, and that's kind of why I wanted to highlight it. Does anybody have any thoughts on this deck?
I mean, I've only played it, I think when it was the first novelty of it, it came about. I think board space management was something I didn't realize was such a challenge. Like, you're like, oh, I want the Blob of Tar out. That's going to be defensive. And all of a sudden, you got these 1/2s clogging up your board, and you can't pull off your big combo turn, or you Scrapbooking Student Amirdrassil, and you're like, oh, this is such a power play. And then all of a sudden, you've got all these little dorky like 2 mana minions on the board, and your warrior opponent won't let you bump them off, and so you can't get your Owlonius down. So from my limited play experience, just really careful about board management. It's a curious thing. I haven't looked at this deck in a while, and I was like, oh, let me take a look at this and look at the card stats. I think this deck might need a revisit, like a bottoms up revisit, because Oaken Summons is like a pretty poor performer, and a lot of the deck is built around that. Like, the deck is really an Elise deck, so maybe more like bottomless toy chest to try and dig for Elise. Double Story of Barnabas with like a really small minion pool. I don't know. It'd be kind of curious to see what that would look like. Somewhere you lean a little bit more towards what a traditional Owlonius looks like. Like if you look at some of the stats, like Seabreeze Chalice looks absolutely insane, even without like the doll houses and stuff like that. And that's a great way to manage an early flashback or something like that, as your chalices and your swipes can clean up the board pretty cleanly. So I'd be interested. Maybe I'll revisit this because if I'm a deck builder, right? And so usually I'll take something and I'll run with it, and then after a while I'll be like, okay, I made all these assumptions about what's powerful in the deck. I've seen what's powerful in the deck. Um, Oaken Summons like feels like it should be a good card, but right now I'm not seeing nearly enough aggression to justify it, to be honest. Especially the Tortollan Traveler feels like I have to make an extra effort to kill it off. Right? Like my opponents are savvy enough that they're like, okay, well, I'm not going to kill it off this turn, but then the next turn, like the floodgates open with a Talgath, and then you get bonked in the head anyway, and the next your Blob of Tar is too slow. So yeah, I thanks for bringing it up, Tito, because I'll be interested in checking it out. Especially, let's say let's tighten the minion pool, put Story Barnabas in. What does that look like? And maybe say, okay, Oaken Summons isn't that great. Scrapbooking Student actually doesn't look that great either. But I think maybe you need one of them. Might just be worth revisiting, which would be interesting.
Yeah, I would love to see it. In fact, I was thinking about, I'm trying to get to D5. I'm at like D6 right now. And I said, once I get to D5, I was going to kind of tinker with it a little bit. I was thinking maybe Dios could be interesting because you could do a lot of weird things with 1 mana Dios. And plus, you get that 48 damage Drake. Dios copies end of turn, duplicates end of turn at least. So you can get some real good hits there. Plus, there's probably something else you can do with that in this deck. So I don't know. I'm thinking about playing with that a little bit. Pilot, you got any thoughts?
Yeah, it's a very interesting archetype because, like we talked about at the beginning, there's like 4 or 5 different versions where you've got these 20 core cards that are the same, which are your Elise, your things to get to Elise, and your things to survive, and those things. And then it's this mix of the most popular ones running Owl and Drake's at the top end with copies, this running Krona to kind of cheapen some things, and it leaves out a couple other cards. There's some that are running buff packages. There are some that are running the pirate that gets charged if it didn't start in your deck, because when you copy it, it didn't start in your deck, and the copies get charged. And there's a lot of different variations that I think cause some of the stats to be a little bit all over, because I could see a card like Oaken Summons being really good in specific versions and not good in other versions because of what the pool is. Where like the version that Tito's talking about, there are 4 really good pulls with Traveler and Blob to thin your deck, and then Elise, which about cancels it out on its own with the usefulness, and it makes it really, really awkward. The other thing that I think a lot of people sometimes miss, and I've noticed this with other decks, don't sleep on Drake as a win condition, even in some of the slower matchups, because pretty much every deck in the format is going to have multiple minions on the board at some point to win the game. We don't have anything that really wins out of nowhere other than Owl. Or if, Quest Warrior's doing Time Warp Murazan things, and you can't do anything with Drake against those anyways, or Owl. So Drake is going to line up fairly often. Don't think, oh, this is a slower matchup against Death Knight, I have to do Owl. They're going to have little token leeches on the board at some point, and you can punish those.
And I guess it's, so we had John Bray on last week and we were talking about tweaking decks and how to like build decks. This is actually, if you want to kind of figure out how to tinker decks to a style that you want to play, this is probably a good one to do it. So because there's so many different options. It's not 28 cards or 29 cards, as I usually say. It's 20 cards, and then you can kind of do whatever you want with it. So I'm looking forward to trying WorldEight's version. I'm looking forward to tinkering with myself, and it's something. I think it's probably one of the more fun decks out there. And if you are kind of just frustrated with the current meta, or you're tired of playing Discover Hunter and Shaman, this is something that's a little different. I don't think it's taking up a lot of the meta. You don't see it a lot, and it's something that's fairly competitive and fun. So that's it. Pilot, we get any news this week?
No news. We're still on the holiday break news lull, so hopefully, most likely next week we'll have a lot more news.
Before we move on to our final topic, WorldEight, I meant to ask you in the early part, are we planning on trying to make a push for Worlds next year?
No, I don't think so. I got unless the stars align and I find a deck that I really shine with that I can make it to a qualifier. I doubt that Worlds push is realistic. I'd be very happy to even make it back to the Master Tour qualifiers at this point.
All right, fair enough.
We'll ask again
I'm
once
sure
the
we can see
if the mini set drops Hand Buff Hunter stuff. Hand Buff Hunter comes back in the mini set, we'll ask again. So, our main topic this week is going to be talking about goals, which lines up pretty well with the new year, but specifically making good goals. And that's one of the most important parts of actually setting them. And it's been used throughout a lot. I know I hear it all the time as a teacher of making SMART goals, to where SMART is an acronym standing for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. Things like get great or get better sound fine, but we don't have actually have a way of using that in a meaningful way. So when you're trying to set SMART goals, you want to do that and follow that so that it sets the goals up to be more productive in the long term. And it also is proven to help build habits through these goals, rather than I'm going to get better, I'm going to hit this new rank next month, and then we hit it and we say, aha, I did it, and then it fades away and doesn't become a habit. These are helping us build those habits to become a player of that skill rather than hit that level. So with each part of it, specific is clearly defining what we're going to achieve. Measurable, how things will be tracked, and we'll talk about each of these more specifically, but as a brief overview. Achievable is it's a goal that needs to be realistic. Relevant, it needs to be aligned to your broader ideals. And time bound, we want to set deadlines and time frames. Now, doing these in Hearthstone is a little bit trickier sometimes, because a lot of the things that we are looking at, especially with measuring, we don't have full control over. Do you have some control over your rank? Yes. Do you have full control? No, because there's another person on the side of the board. It's not like setting a goal for exercise where it's just you and you alone that are doing it. So some of these are going to be a little bit trickier to kind of set those concepts into place with, but like I talked about, we want to build the habits and we want to focus on that. So when we're looking at specific goals, we want to be really clearly defined what we are going to achieve and the steps that we're going to do to achieve it. And in this spot, we need to avoid being vague. It needs to be very, very specific to what you want to do. A lot of times it's asking, the 5 W's questions, the who, what, when, where, why, all those different things. And then these can be based on certain skills, or it might be something that is an improvement indicator, or that can be included, especially depending on where you're at in ladder. I think if, for us three that are hitting legend, pretty much every month, it's a little bit harder because that number can easily ebb and flow, from here and there, depending on the month, compared to a player who always maxes out at, this gold, gold whatever, or silver whatever, or platinum whatever, wherever they're at. It's a little bit easier, I think, for some of those players to say, I want to hit the next star multiplier, and kind of use those, because there's more steps along the way. And it's easier to kind of see those steps compared to, my legend rank can go up by 1,000 in the month, but does it really mean that I was 1,000 better when 2,000 fewer people hit legend because it was a holiday month? And it's really hard to kind of use that always to judge for those. So that is something to where you might have to use your ladder placement as able. But certain skills you can definitely define, especially defining how you're going to check on those. To where one of my skills that I want to work on, because I caught it a lot in my Lorcana play today, is my mulligan. And am I mulliganing correctly and aggressively enough when I need to? When there's a deck that has a clear mulligan outlier, am I going to get it? Or am I just saying, these cards are good enough, and knowing when I need to do that and what matchups kind of dictate that. And that's where I can clearly say I want to be better at identifying my mulligan impact and finding the high impact cards for the matchup, which means that I need to be checking stats, I need to be checking replays, I need to be making a note of, hey, I kept this card I'm not sure about, I'm going to keep it a few games that I see it. Let's see how it plays out. And did I actually play the card and it impacted, or did it sit in my hand and I never played it, and why? Sorry, totally lost my train of thought. So we want to be as specific as we can while also understanding Hearthstone is a game with a lot of variables. Measurable. We need to make sure that something can be measured. Again, a little bit tricky to do outside of rank-based stuff, but for skills, we can compare to stats. There might be, if you're focusing on, I want to learn how to play these types of decks better, identifying these are matchups I should be winning, I'm not winning them. What can I do to change that? I'm playing a control deck and I keep losing to an aggro deck that is a 65% matchup in my favor. What am I doing wrong? And that's where you can start to measure those and start to see, oh, this week I was losing a lot, this week I went even, now I'm winning the matchup. And then you have that measurable way of identifying that you are getting better at it. Achievable. Obviously, our goals have to be realistic. If you're currently in gold, hitting top 1K legend this month is probably not a realistic goal unless you are typically there and just are currently sitting in gold. And also I think a big thing is they need to be realistic with the time investment that you have to put in and want to put in. It's easy to say, I really want to hit this rank bracket, but I'm only going to play, but if you're only going to play 50 games in the month, is that a realistic thing to do with the amount of time that you're putting in? I think that that's a really important thing that sometimes can get overlooked when you're trying to make these really big goals for improvement. Relevant, you have to evaluate who you are as a player. Have to decide, this is who I am, this is what I'm good at, these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses, this is what I think I can improve on in the next 1, 2, 3 months, and this is what I think is my next step. And then time bound. I think this is one of the easier ones to kind of do for Hearthstone, because we kind of have this time frame of monthly seasons where it's really easy to say, okay, I'm going to focus month to month, to where this month I want to hit this goal, or over the next 3 months I want to improve from month to month on the skill. And it's easy to kind of bracket those in with the monthly seasons. And then once you've looked at all of those, they're not going to stand alone on their own as goals. You'll take all those parts and pieces to make that final goal. So like for me, I want to work on mulligans. This month I want to look at mulligan impact cards. Am I keeping the high impact cards? Am I finding the matchups where I need to mulligan aggressively enough, and comparing my experience with the stats and then with results by making notes. And having those certain things that you're going to do are really important to this goal setting, especially with SMART goals. It's really easy to say, I'm going to get better at mulligans. Well, how? And that's where, if you do these different steps and be very specific in what you're going to do, then it becomes a habit. So, Tito, anything you want to chime in?
Yeah, it's not the easiest thing to come up with specific, like to meet the SMART goals in Hearthstone, but it's definitely good to think about, because like obviously one of my goals. I have a couple goals. One of my main goals is to stop making as many stupid mistakes as I make. And well, how do you define that? And I you know it when you see it, right? But like I can at least start measuring it by saying, oh hey, I didn't count lethal. Oh hey, I took that turn too quickly and I didn't really think about maybe an alternate play that I could have made, or I didn't think 2 turns ahead and I should have done this because if I would have thought about turn 7, I would have made these plays. So I think while being pretty vague about stop making kind of mistakes is an okay goal, you can kind of make it specific by tracking individual pieces of it along the way. So that is one thing, right? And the other thing just completely blew through my brain. So I'll come back to it when I remember it.
I'll chime in and give you time to think. Yeah, something like that is always hard to figure out too, because it's not like there's this big sign in game that pops up and says, "Hey, dummy, you made a dumb play." Like, if you made the play, you obviously thought that it was the right play at the time, or else you wouldn't have made it. And it's really hard to identify those in the moment. And that's where, I think for something like that, having some sort of measurable and specific way that you're going to address it is kind of where it becomes more achievable as a goal then.
And the other thing I was thinking about is THL and competitive play. Is I have the problem of when I'm streaming, I tend to lock in a deck like Krona Druid or Aura Paladin or Buff Paladin or whatever it is I'm playing. And then when it comes to pick my lineup, I really haven't given a lot of thought to other decks that I'm playing. And the deck I'm playing probably isn't a bring either anyway, but I end up bringing it anyway because it's what I've been playing and what I'm comfortable with. I need to put more time into like looking at the matchups, looking at the meta, figuring out what people are going to bring, understanding what I need to be able to play. Because a lot of times, I come up with a lineup and I'm like, oh, this should be okay. And then I look at the matchup spreads and I'm all in the red. And it's like, okay, this is not quite what I was doing. And maybe if I would have kind of researched my opponent a little bit more, or kind of just got a better feel of the meta, because I know what the meta is. I'm tuned in. I play enough. I play at a high level or highish enough level where I know what like the meta is, but at the same point, how does that translate to conquest format? And it's not always that easy. So again, I don't know how to measure that, but specifically, I want to put more time into being prepared for THL and actually have a good season. Now, I would say I'd like to go into with a winning record next season, because I've usually been either 500 or a little below or a lot below depending on the season, but it's hard. Like, is that achievable? Maybe, but we're also in the pro league where there are a lot of really competitive players that are better than me. I did almost win a series against someone that was ranked 11 at the time, which felt really good. I almost pulled it out and they got a 50-50 at the end that really kind of made the difference. So that, like, I know I can do it. I know I have the skills. It's kind of like any given Sunday. You can win these matchups if you play smartly. So let's go back to the first goal, stop making stupid mistakes. But I would like to at least get back to 500, if not slightly over, and get our team to the playoffs. How about yourself, WorldEight?
Oh, well, terrific coverage of this topic, Pilot. It's great to see the teacher side of you really, coming out. Is awesome. Sometimes you guys do these interviews and, great interviews. And oftentimes you guys don't get a chance to shine. So especially you, Pilot, it was good to hear you talking very clearly about this. For me, I've heard this before. I've been familiar with it. I've been very bad at doing it. It's hard. This is a hard thing to do. We have goals in our head, especially coming into a new year here, and we're like, oh, this is where I want to be, and that's kind of where we leave it. We have these vague, hand wavy things like, I want to get in shape, and it's like, I'm going to start exercising, and then a month later, it's like, I didn't really start doing that, or I like did it a little bit, and it fell off. And the point of this, right, is to like Pilot was saying, and I want to reinforce this, is to get into good habits where these sort of things are, we just do these with almost not even thinking about them. For me, specifically though, what I want to talk about is that these are all kind of at the same time, right? It's not one, then the next, then the next. Actually, for me, I would say it's, you want to do something relevant that I have very different goals than most players, right? For me, my goals are aligned with deck building. I want to build decks that other players find, they enjoy, and honestly, for my ego, I want them to become popular, right? Like that's I'm gonna be completely honest here. Like that's my goal is to make fun, popular decks. I've done it in the past, and so for me, what does that look like? I could have other goals like, doing well on ladder, improving my skills. These are all relevant goals, but to speak to me as a player, it's mostly about the creativity side of these things. It's not the execution side. I'm very happy with how my skill level, but again, what I want to do is make my name kind of synonymous with, well, this is going to be a cool, fun, interesting deck, and I think over the years I've gotten there. But it's one bite at a time. It's one deck at a time. For every good deck that I make, I probably have 20 garbage decks, right? That I go and I tank and I'm experimenting with, or even the good decks take a lot of tinkering. And usually there's a moment of clarity and of insight. And so an achievable goal for me that I set every year is to try and make an impactful deck. It's a crazy goal, but I've done it for 3-4 years now. I've had a deck that became popular, became impactful in the meta some way. So that's my goal, and that's a really, really tough, lofty goal. But my time frame is I give myself the whole year, right? And I'm probably crafting like hundreds of decks over the course of the year, right? Like I'm constantly working through things several times a week, maybe only once a week, but I'm always going through the deck builder. And so, but for me, I do a very poor job of so that's relevant, that's somewhat achievable because I've done it before, it's time bound, I've set a year. I have a very specific thing, which is like I want it to appear on HS Guru, right? Like that's the goal I'm trying to achieve here, and the measure is how many is like total games played. So my approach for things like ladder is very vague. Like I like to get to a certain rank, like typically I like to be around rank 500. I've done better, I've done a lot worse. That's just like where my comfort zone is for my skill level. And when I fly too close to the sun, I can really feel it. And when I go the other direction, I can also, I can very specifically notice my opponent's mistakes, right? So it goes both ways. But that's not really part of my goals. My goals, if we go back to what is relevant to me, it's again, how do I make my mark as a deck builder, and how do I help other players have fun? So it's a very interesting framework. I need to keep it in mind, not just for Hearthstone, but for my life in general. But I think it's a great topic to talk about. Do you guys have any more thoughts on that?
I have thoughts on what you were saying. Like one of my I would say you have probably rank goals, right? There's things that are primary that like, hey, these are the things I'm focused on. But there's also things like I'd like to do this, and maybe it's not something that you're going to put into the S.M.A.R.T framework, but they're still there and they're still on the fringe. And like what you were just talking about, having that deck impact. I'm not a deck builder, but I try sometimes, and I do want to be. And at the beginning of this expansion, I streamed for the first day and I built some stuff and I tried some stuff, and it was really cool to be on Coin Concede the other day, listening to Coin Concede and saying, "Oh yeah, this deck was first streamed by Tito Santana," and it said it multiple times, and I was on that list that you guys made a couple times with my name on it, and that just because WorldEight and Coin Concede, they put out this list of the decks you can play right there, and just seeing my name there was great. And even a couple months ago, I'm like, what would be really cool is if we could get some kind of buff paladin going again, but maybe with some of the bubbles and all that. And I started playing that, and I started tinkering with that, and people were coming to me and be like, did you invent this deck? I'm like, probably not, but kinda. And so it kind of like not in any scale that you've been with some of the decks you've done, or even just popularizing a 2/5 that makes your enemy's spells cost 2 more. But even just that little bit of recognition is like, as a content creator, to be seen on any level is always really, really good. And that's the other goal that I have, is content creation. And that is hard to measure too. I actually just spent about an hour writing up a synopsis for Alkali, because I've been talking back and forth. And one of the hardest things to do is Hearthstone's an old game. It's 11 years old plus, and people aren't hungry for content like they were when it first came out. So trying to grow your content, trying to grow this podcast, trying to grow my own personal stream, my own YouTube, is hard. And especially now, because it's like it's already so saturated, and it's already, people like what they like, and they're probably done with Hearthstone, or so it's really hard to grow. And it's like, how do I make goals for that and bring it? And we've done a lot over the last 6 months, I would say, is we've started doing a lot more on the YouTube. We're streaming live. We're now we got a lot of things, like we have made increment improvements, but I want to improve that over the next year or so, and I want to be at least twice as big as we are now, maybe. I want to grow my stream. And how do I do that? What's the definition of that? And I have definitions, and I don't need to go all into that for the sake of this, because I know we have some content creators that listen to the show. In fact, that's probably a quarter of our audience. But um, it doesn't just have to be a gameplay. Like this whole thing that we're talking about, the smart thing, like WorldEight said, are you trying to get in shape? I personally hate that everyone uses January 1st as the time to get better, get in shape and all that, which it makes sense because it's a new year. But if you live in New England, it's cold, and going to the gym is really much harder to do, because you're like, oh, it's just cold, and I got to deal with the snow and all this. If it was like in like May, you'd be like, yeah, we'll go to the gym, sure. It'd be a lot easier to get rid of those outside factors like the cold. But anyway, Philo, you got any more thoughts?
Yeah, I think we need to agree, just as a community, like January 1st for indoor New Year's resolutions, like April or May for outdoor New Year's resolutions. Like, can we just move that and make it two separate things? That seems a lot easier.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, it's a lot of this, like we talked about, it's really hard to define with Hearthstone, and how you define it is going to be different person to person, to where if it's gameplay based, I use the monthly thing. But like WorldEight said, for deck building, if you're not going to come up with a new breakthrough deck every month, that's just not realistic or possible, unless we have a really crazy meta where things are shifting every week, which we haven't had for quite a while. But you're using all these ideas to set those goals and to try to define it so that it's not vague, and then so it's something easier to stick with. And that's the important part of the framework, is now you have something concrete that you can look at and be like, this is what I'm going to do, and that helps keep you on track. It's like what we've talked about before, whenever you're trying to enjoy the game more or something like that, if you find something to focus on other than the results, then normally you're going to A, have more success, and B, enjoy it a lot more. And as I was looking through a lot of these things, one thing that popped up that talked about habit building is make it so easy that you can't say no. Whatever you're trying to do, if you're trying to start a brand new habit, keep it super simple, overly simple, to where it's something to where it's so hard to say, no, I'm not going to do that. Make it that easy, to where the example I saw was with reading, and it said read one page. Like, that's easy enough. I can read one page. And then you start expanding off of that. And that's where, you're able to build these habits. And spoiler alert, even though I came up with this, I'm terrible at SMART goals also. I am awful at making goals and following through with them, even as a teacher. It's something that I have to constantly revisit and relook at. And it's something I constantly look at because it's something I'm constantly teaching my students in a performance-based classroom. As a band director, I'm constantly looking at these things because we don't have math problems where it's you got the right answer, you got the wrong answer. It's we have this abstract thing similar to Hearthstone, and I have all these students, junior high, high school, all different levels. All their goals are going to be different, and how to teach them how to make goals that make sense for them is something that's difficult to do, and something I have to look at myself just as much.
So would you say one of your goals is to be better at making goals?
Yeah, it should be.
And to bring it around, also prioritize your goals. If your goals are I need to reduce my blood sugar because my doctor said so, I want to be less angry, I want to be a good Hearthstone should be 3 in that list, so like make sure you understand, like if you have multiple things that you want to accomplish, it doesn't hurt to have a priority. And especially like blood sugar, yes, that's important. Make sure that that wins. Do the things like that. Hearthstone, if you miss your goals, you know what? You got to next month try again. So prioritizing one thing, but also weighting those priorities as far as how much they matter is thing like important. Like Hearthstone is important to me. I want to get better. I'm trying to become an 11x player. Not again, I'm not trying to get to 11x. I'm trying to be an 11x player, two different things. Trying to delineate that as something else. I haven't got there yet. That's okay. It's not as important as staying healthy. It's not as important as family. It's not as important as work. So remember to prioritize what goals are the most important and what. And I'm not saying like, oh, well, the Hearthstone goal isn't important, so I don't have to worry about it. Obviously, it's important to you because you're making the goal for it. Just think about it in the hierarchy of everything else going on in your life.
Yeah, 100%. And that goes with any goal building. I mean, you're going to have more than one goal in anything that you do, and it's okay to rank them and be okay with the ones at the bottom of the list not happening. And it's also okay with setting a goal and only getting halfway there. If your goal is especially something that's abstract like a skill, you want to hit this level of improvement that you've decided on the skill by March, and it doesn't happen, but you got halfway there. That's still improvement. And now you can look at it and be like, okay, I still want to focus on this, but obviously this part of how I was working on it didn't work as well as I thought it was going to. Maybe I need to do this instead.
And actually, that's really important to think about too, because in the SMART, one of the things is measurable. Maybe when you're setting goals, you don't know what you don't have a real clear ability to define what is measurable. So you say, oh, I want to get to top 500 legend or whatever your goal is. And maybe that wasn't a realistic goal, but you didn't know that when you set it. So then you go through whatever period of time that you've picked and you say, okay, well, I got to Diamond 5. Okay, great. So then that was my goal. Now I can adjust my next goal. So just because you set your measurement doesn't mean that you know what your measurement should be. Or you could say, hey, for weight, I want to lose 30 pounds. That might not be realistic in the time frame, but it might seem like it is. Who knows? So just, be ready to take the data in from your initial approach to things and then adjust and then try to make more realistic goals and expectations based on the data that you have. Anybody have any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
Oh yeah. So I have a few thoughts here. First of all, I think that having a rank goal is kind of like losing the forest for the trees. Because that's month to month. That's fleeting, right? Like I've ping ponged all over ladder, personally. But I know that I've been very proud of some finishes. But if I had a goal of getting somewhere, I'd just be staring at that number. It would drive me nuts. And I don't think I'd be learning anything from it. And like the learning the skills, learning the what you need to do to get there. If you get lost in that number, you're not going to get there. You're probably not going to stay there. It's more about what is all the structure that leads up to that. Those are like the habits and stuff. Like one of the most important things in this game is what deck do you queue? Like that is probably one of the most important decisions you'll make at any point of the game is what deck did I even bring to this matchup? And so there's a lot of out of game work that if you're listening to this, you're probably competitive and you're probably familiar with all the different resources that'll lead you to what's a good deck and what's a good list. But that's an easy win. But that choice won't lead you to a specific rank. It's doing that habit. It's correcting the mulligan. It's all the little things within that particular game and doing it over again. That'll get you to your goal. And I think it's fine to have I want to hit this, I want to get to this metric. Because I want to talk about a second thing here, which is that we can have steps. Like we have a big goal, maybe we want to do it by the end of the year. And you say, okay, by the end of the year, and Doc McButt was great, as a host, and he always kind of had this realistic goal. From what I remember, Tito, you can correct me, and you were trying to push him. You're like, I think you can get to Legend, Doc, right? And you just got to go try and be a gold player this time. Try and be platinum. Try to get yourself into diamond. Try to get yourself into Diamond 5. You might be a few months in Diamond 5 through 1. But if your goal by the end of the year is to hit Legend, and I know quite a few players that is their goal, these are reasonable goals to be like, I'm going to move up to the next bracket, right? Maybe you've hit Legend and you're like, I really want to get to top 1K. If you increase by 1,000 ranks on average every month, that's an incredible progress rate. But you don't say I'm going to hit 1K without a plan from here to there. One of the things that I did is I did a marathon, and I just decided at the beginning of the year that I'm going to do this. I don't really like running, but what the heck, I want to put this, under my belt. And so I looked up a program, right? Like I looked up a 20-week program that, that started running a 5K, right? And every week you run. And by the end of it, the program, has pushed out tens of thousands of marathon runners, right? Like myself, which is I'm a very average person. Like I said, I don't really like running. I just had a goal in my mind. But every week I had a new goal. This week I'm going to run 3.5 miles. Next week I'm going to run 4 miles. And you do that 20 times and hey, you've added up to the 26 that you need to run that. So breaking it down, and Pilot touched on this very briefly, having steps allows you to achieve your goals. The best way to eat a whale, one bite at a time. So it's not terrible to say I have this long-term goal, and then within that I have very short-term goals. And maybe the long-term goal, it's very hard to it's a very loose targets, but within your short-term goals, these are things that you can identify. Those are the things that you can measure. And if things start to go poorly, don't beat yourself up, but hopefully things go well too, right? Like you're accelerating, you're doing well, because there's going to be good times, there's going to be bad times where you accelerate, and then there's going to be times where you stall. But as long as you're looking, forward, ideally with all that background and history of saying, these are my measurements, these are my specific things that I'm doing, I'm just going to keep pushing forward. You will ideally hit your goal by that longer time bound frame.
And something that you were talking about really kind of resonates with me, because my goals conflict often, and that's important to know, because I want to be a better Hearthstone player. I also want to be an entertaining streamer. I also want to be a deck builder. I also want to, make more content. And those things don't always help each other, because when you build decks, you're gonna lose games. When you're trying to be entertaining or being a streamer, you might have to play other things or do things that maybe not might necessarily be the most ideal things. So the things I have conflict, and as long as you understand that, like sometimes I'll log in, I'm like, I want to grow as I want to win in more games, as many games as possible. And then sometimes I'm like, well, I want to see if I can make this deck work. Those two things don't coincide with each other. So as long as you understand that, it's okay. I think it's okay to have conflicting goals, or at least goals that directly conflicting, not good. Like if you're like, you don't want to say I want to lose 30 pounds and I want to eat all the chocolate I can. Like those two things are not going to work together. But if you have goals that like, well, this is going to shift things this way, or this is going to shift things that way, or whatever like that, as long as you are aware and conscious of, hey, this is going to affect this, am I okay with that? Then that's okay. But you need to just kind of take stock of that, because otherwise you're going to be like, well, I didn't win a lot of games. Well, yeah, but you were also building Brightcleaver Hunter. So yeah, now we know why you weren't winning many games. So just kind of keep that in mind.
Yeah, and I meant to touch more on the using a ranked goal as a very dangerous thing, because it is something that fluctuates, and it is something that you have the least amount of control over in Hearthstone, I feel, because you can play a quote unquote perfect game and still lose because you're playing a 2080 matchup. And how much control over that do you have? Not a lot, but it still affects the number, to where it's okay to have, as long as it's not your primary goal. That's something we've talked about on the show all the time. As WorldEight was talking about it, I pulled up my spreadsheet of my stats of like records and finishes and highest rank since I've hit Legend. The first month I hit Legend, I finished at 21,000. Back in 2020, and I distinctly remember, because I started playing that year when we had COVID shut down, and I got hard stuck at gold for like 2 months, and then the month that I finally got past gold 5, I hit diamond that month, to where that was just a hard stuck spot for me, and then I got stuck at diamond for another couple months before I finally crossed that final plateau into legend. And that's just how it goes. You're going to have those. But I was looking back at this, I had a 3 or 4 month stretch where I went from 6,100 as my finish to 13,400 to 2,900 in the next month. I don't think I changed that much as a player in those 3 months, but that's a huge swing. And then I had another one to where I went from finishing triple digits to finishing at 3,500 the next month, because life happens and things happen in Hearthstone. And I went from winning at 61% one month to 48% the next month, because it was June into July and I had band camps and I was tired every time I played in July. So I can see the correlation. I know exactly why that happened, but if I'm focused on just the number, it looks like I really missed my goals until things settled and I swung back around.
And how'd you do in November again? Never mind.
Yeah.
And I have the same thing. Like I went from, I'm looking at like some stats here, and in December I was pretty happy with the way I played, and I finished at 3,816, which is not where I want to be, but it's so much improvement over the 10,499 I was in October. So it was more focused. It was more again, and I'm playing not a dumb deck, but I'm playing not a common meta deck. But one of the things that you can do is you can play the same deck, and as long as it's competitive, you get to a 49% win rate deck is a 52% win rate deck if in your hands, if you've got enough games on it and you understand the matchups and whatnot. So there's so many things we could talk about. Like just have fun and don't be too hard on yourself. But make realistic goals, and if you can't hit those goals, talk to people. We have awesome communities, and you can talk to people and say, hey, I'm really struggling with, I'm trying to hit this goal, I can't figure it out, and people will help you. Like, just if you want to figure out why a deck's not working, just talk to WorldEight. I'll send WorldEight a deck, and I'll be like, dude, I am 12-1 with this deck. I'm having so much fun. And literally in like an hour, he's like, no, here's a better version of this deck. So, any final thoughts? Or we good?
I
All
do
right.
want to give a shout out to last week's episode with Jean Bray, because he talks about this right a bit indirectly, because he's like, oh, well, my goal as a content creator clashes with my goal as being like a high legend player, and sometimes I'll dip down to rank 3000 trying something out, and then he mentions going back up to double digits. Terrific episode of Bread and Butter. Please check it out. I loved it. One of my favorites. So, but you can hear it from one of the most highly respected players or deck builders, in my opinion, of their own challenges with this topic.
100%. That was somebody that we had wanted on for a while, and it was hard because there's a lot of Europeans we want on, but it's hard to get them on. But they are over in Malaysia or somewhere, so it was like the other end of the world. So it worked out okay. So we try to jump on those opportunities when we can. But that was a lot of fun. That was a great episode. I think I learned a lot, and I love it. So WorldEight question of the week: do you have any resolutions for this year that you don't want to share with us?
Well, it's not measurable. It's just kind of like a general thing. Last year my resolution was to give everyone in my life more grace, especially myself, and I did that. And I was very happy with, just like, I looked back in the year and I said, yes, I was more patient with people, but I was also more forgiving of myself. And this year my goal is to take pride in who I am and the work that I do. Not measurable, but maybe it will be. Maybe I can break that down and find things that I can put concrete numbers to.
Well, we're always proud of you, and we were very proud of you last year when you made that run in the Masters Tour qualifier. So, well done. If you'd like to support our show, you can do so by joining over at patreon.com/breadandbutterhs. If it was one of your resolutions to help out a small podcast, that's a great opportunity. You get access to the raw audio early, which also has kind of the pre-show and the post-show. So you get a little extra banter there. Banter. Sometimes we have McBanter on, so sometimes you get McBanter banter. You also get access to a special members channel on Discord where you can talk to pretty much all our guests, and you can help shape future episodes of the show by suggesting people or maybe having questions. If we tell you who's coming on soon, you can say, oh, WorldEight's coming on. I want to know about deck building. Can I ask him this question? Yes, we can. So that helps. And if you'd like to help us in a non-financial way, just tell people about the show. Give us a rating. Give us 5-star rating on Spotify or whatnot. I think Apple. We always say Apple Music because you get to type out the response there, but I think that's kind of hard to do now. So if you actually go and do it, great. But whatever, just give us, tell people about the show. Hey, you like Hearthstone? This is a great show. You're going to learn about the people of the community, and hopefully you learn a thing or two about how to play. WorldEight, how can people find you on social media?
Well, the best way to reach me is WorldEight on Discord, or if you find me in game. Usually pretty open to chatting with people. People have been actually pretty pleasantly friendly with me. I don't know how I've been so fortunate. But also I will post things on X, WorldEight_HS. Very infrequent. Used to be much more active on that platform. When I don't know, things have changed. And I am on Twitch, both producing content very sparingly, but also you can find me in chat, Tito's, stream sometimes, WorldEight_HS.
And Pilot, where can people find you?
I also want to throw in, because I think he left it out, WorldEight's also on the Vicious Syndicate podcast, so check him out there as well. So you can find me on Twitter, Blue Sky, Discord, Pilot712, PYLAT.
And you can find me on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, and anywhere else fine leather goods are sold at Tito Santana HS. Make sure you're checking out the YouTube. We're posting a lot. it's been a lot of Krona Druid, believe it or not, but I've been posting a lot of shorts, and we have lots of plans for the year. Whether or not we achieve those goals yet to be seen, but we have content goals, and I'm looking forward to having a very productive 2026. WorldEight, do you have anything you'd like to promote or shout out this week?
Well, I was gonna save the Vicious Syndicate promotion until this part of the show.
I realized that afterwards.
Yeah, no, it's all good. You know, double dip here. Yeah, we're still rocking and rolling over at Vicious Syndicate podcast, talking about the meta and what decks are coming through and how things are changing. We're not doing it quite as frequent, probably 2 times a month. So Tito needles me that bread and butter is going to catch up, and maybe they will. In terms of shout outs, I'll give a shout out to anybody whose goal is to get to their next tier in Hearthstone, whatever that goal is. Getting to the next rank is very stressful. Even I don't like that Hearthstone brew avatar. That guy really stresses me out every time I get to D1. I don't care for him too much. So good luck to you all, and that's my shout out this week is to anyone pushing their own goals this year.
Pilot, do you have anything you'd like to promote or shout out this week?
Gonna shout out, we have a bunch of the local Lorcana players that I play with going to the bigger tournament here this upcoming weekend, the DLC in Richmond. So hoping for some good results for some of the local people that we know. And then also shout out to the card Dwarf Planet that Tito makes fun of me for always trying to make work and saying that it's better than it is, because it was the correct pick off of a random generation in one of my games this week and almost got me there. It should have, but I misplayed other things.
Almost got you there. Had to discover it. Didn't hard run it.
So I played a Relic of Kings in the Arcane Mage because all my other discovers whiffed, and I hit Dwarf Planet the turn after that they played Bulwark. So I chewed through the entire Bulwark and made a board all in one turn. It was beautiful.
Yeah, and when you're playing the Owl Druid of any kind, make sure you're paying attention to the game, because when you play Owl and you copy it, and then you realize they played Bulwark the turn before, not fun. And I'm going to shout out Pilot this week because it's a new year. Pilot has, over the last year, really kind of joined the show and taken an active role. And even on my stream, you being a moderator and being just a friend and someone that gives me bad decks and listens to my dumb ideas and says, this is a dumb deck. And then like 5 minutes later says, what if we had this card? And so, it's been a fun journey. But anyway, guys, I think we're toast. We'll see ya.
See ya.
See ya.